You know, the white officer who later was accused of also being a catalyst to the death of Tyre Nichols. We got more information about him and the violence that he did on that night that contributed to the death of Mr. Nichols. Let's put the picture up full mass here. Remember, they tried to hide him. That is Hemphill, a document filed by the Memphis PD. Request for Officer Hemphill to be decertified. This is normative by the Peace Officer Standards and Training Commission. It's called POST. That document has given us more information than the police chief of Memphis. That document reveals more of this former cop now and his involvement in the traffic stop and the litany of violations. But despite Hemphill being fired for his conduct during that night, Hemphill has still not been charged criminally. Not been charged criminally, okay? He's been charged departmentally, which is an administrative function, but the DA has not charged him criminally. On January 7th, investigators say Officer Hemphill initially told them that Tyre Nichols was stopped for reckless driving at a high rate of speed, but then later told investigators he didn't actually see Nichols driving recklessly. All right, what is that? Obstruction of justice and lying on an official document, as well as violation of oath. There you go, 3 charges right there. There's more. He then let loose, as you see in the video, after Nichols was hauled out of the car. Remember that scene? Audio from Officer Hemphill's body camera captured him yelling, "Get on the effing ground, finna tase your ass." That's him saying that, okay? Once again, not charged. As a matter of fact, we did not even know who he was in the beginning. They were hiding him. As reported previously, Hemphill is also heard on body camera footage saying, "I hope they stomp his ass," after Nichols fled. He also said Nichols began fighting with officers after he was stopped and tried to grab his partner's gun. Video evidence shows this did not happen. Investigators say Hemphill violated the department's truthfulness policy. Oh, that's what it is. So when a cop lies on an official document, it's just a violation of internal policy. He didn't tell the truth. He violated the truthfulness policy. You see, when a civilian lies to a cop, that's called obstruction of justice. It is a crime. When a cop lies to a cop, they say, "Oh, it's just a violation of our truthfulness policy." You all have a truthfulness policy? Really? Can I read it? All right, there's more. He also said Nichols was fighting the officers. None of that happened. Additionally, Hemphill used a taser. Now, I'm gonna get to the violence here, okay? Why is he not charged? Officer Hemphill used a taser on Nichols as he was fleeing in oncoming traffic. And the documents show he failed to retrieve a part of the taser that was missing. Both actions are against MPD's compliance with regulations policy. Investigators say Nichols showed no sign of violence toward Officer Hemphill and say the former officer's behavior at the scene violated MPD's personal conduct policy. Well, when are they going to say it violated the law? Well, let me tell you what's happening here. Post-certification is the entity who basically empowers a cop to be a cop. It is your certification standard. Without that, you cannot have arrest powers in a particular state. Now, here's what's interesting. They know Hemphill is dirty. They got to get rid of him. But for some reason, they're not willing to charge him criminally, which would have been the quicker route to get rid of him. The chief does not come out and tell us any of these details. The reason we know them is because in order to decertify this cat, they must present the basis for decertification. And in that presentation, these facts, these elements must be spelled out properly, or POST can be subjected to lawsuit. So we are seeing the truth through an administrative division, not through the police department, nor through the DA's office. That is a problem. There's more. Documents also show Officer Hemphill did not collect and tag a cell phone found in Nichols' car. The car and evidence were eventually towed to the city's impound lot. This violated MPD's inventory and processing recovered property policy. He also violated compliance with regulations policy by using personal handcuffs. Yeah, you heard me. The man, for whatever reason that day, decided to bring handcuffs that were not issued by the police department. There's more. Investigators say Hemphill had the chance to change his initial statement, but did not. He had a chance to change his initial statement. He also declined to give a statement at his hearing with MPD on the day he was terminated. Why is he not charged? Why is he not charged? The Memphis Police Association, however, did give a statement at Officer Hemphill's hearing and said they objected to having a hearing before the conclusion of the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation's investigation. There you have it. Now, you and I can clearly see a difference of treatment. Ben Crump called it out quite early. Not only was he involved in the interaction, he was part of the violence that night. And then he was part of the cover-up. Beyond being part of the cover-up, they clearly described a scenario where he was allowed to change his statement. They literally put this in writing and said, hey, we actually gave Hemphill the opportunity to change his statement. And he did not. Why has he not been charged? All right, just the thoughts here.
Yeah, I mean, we can just look at the officers who were arrested and Hemphill, and yeah, there's a big difference there. All the officers arrested and charged are black officers. Hemphill was the only white officer who has yet to be charged. And the department can say, oh, he violated our truthfulness, policy within our department, but he also violated federal law and absolutely can be charged for that. And I mean, to some extent, he's the but-for cause of the murder. Without his false statement of reckless driving, the arrest wouldn't have happened in the first place. So you could even bring him in if they don't think they can charge him under the same charges they're charging the other officers with. They could bring him in under felony murder for that. I mean, and because he's sitting there chanting, I hope they stomp your ass. That shows that it was foreseeable to him that this man might be murdered as a result of his lie. So I think there's a lot of grounds under which they could charge this man. And the only reason I can see that they haven't is because he's white and they're trying to, cover up their asses for everything else. But I mean, it's also just, it's plain as day what's going on here. This man is guilty as sin and he needs to be charged and held accountable, and not just administratively, but criminally.
That's right. Well said. We will obviously continue to follow this story as it develops. Promise you, developments are coming.